Okay, Lucia, now you just didn't come here blind, not having done research on your own before diving into your research in Italy. So, talk a little bit about what research you did before you came here.
True. Actually, it all started back when I was 14 years old, and I just happened to have interest in the family, and was talking to an aunt, and was asking about the family, and she started telling me about family names, and I happened to write them down on a piece of paper decades later that I found, and I said, "Wow, I'm really still interested in this," and I started putting together family trees from when I was very young. Then, when I got serious about it, when I had a little bit more time on my hands, I discovered the LDS, Latter day Saints Family History Centers. And I went to the Family History Center, introduced myself, and started to learn from the family history specialists when they were available on how to search for records. I spent well over a year in my local Family History Center, searching and digging for records. I would find a few, one or two here and there, but it was a lot easier to find the civil records on film because they were readable. But as I started to try to go back, trying to order films, first of all, you had to figure out which film you wanted to get. And the names of the films are in Italian, and you had to figure out what register you're looking at, whether you were even looking at a birth or a death or marriage records. And then if you found a marriage record, you wanted to find a birth record required another film. And sometimes you had to get multiple films because an index, which would list all of the names that you were looking for, are on yet another film. So you had to record film numbers and order them. It was a long process. You might spend hours and hours searching through microfiche as well as digital. So after you exhaust the digital films for the commune and the civil records, you want to go through some church records that might have been archived. You have to go through some microfiche that hasn't been fully digitized yet.
And how much support do you get at the centers when you're looking at the film?
I'm sure it varies from center to center. My center was very, very supportive, very helpful. They have certain hours where volunteers can help you to do some searching. Some are specialized in different countries. Some might not be specialized in your country. But just putting together what documents you need is a process. And the documents are not right there. They're in Granite Mountain, Utah, and have to get ordered once you've exhausted easy civil records.
Compare that to what you found since you've been here in the 5 days that we have been searching in Sicily and in Caserta together.
We were able to find 4, 5, 6 records in one location or more within a day, going to multiple places because they're all right there, and you're not having to wait to order films and trying to figure out which one you have next. Everything's right there to try to put together, especially have somebody else who's done this a lot of times before to help you out, to help pull together the records and direct you into which one to find next, and to keep you on track, because it's so easy to get off track.
Yes, it's important to stay on track. And why is that, Lucia? What did you find yourself doing?
Oh, I found a family name. Wrong parents. Oh, okay. But it's a name.
Well, you have to be really careful there because sometimes it can be beneficial. You see the name, then you can glance at your notes and see if it's a relationship, but then immediately get back on track to the family that you're looking for. Otherwise, you might not make it back to them before your time runs out.
Maintain that priority for the time you have. And then, but we flagged it, and then sometimes it was great to go back to it and find a sister.
And how many records are you going home with on this trip?
I know it's dozens and dozens and dozens of records, probably maybe up to 40 or 50 records, but we also got index information, and I like to get sources, the covers of the books and the sides, so I know where they came from.
I think that's number one thing to do if you're ever going to add information onto any ancestry site on the internet. Make sure that you have a document source to go with it. Because there's a lot of people that put information out there because maybe they heard it word of mouth or they pulled it from somebody else's family tree, and you can't necessarily be 100% certain that that information is accurate unless you have the documentation to go along.
Even though I thought I was doing pretty well with my research, I had some dates wrong.
For simply reading the record incorrectly.
I thought I read 1880 record, which was actually 1879, yes. So thank you for interpreting that for me.
There was another situation where we were able to clear some things up as well, where Lucia had a birth certificate, but didn't notice in the right margin of the birth certificate there was a notation to the marriage that she had been searching for quite some time.
And it was right there in front of us. I've researched how to extract records and how to read them, and even with all of that preparation, you can never be prepared enough, and it really helps to have somebody there helping out.
Something you said earlier really stuck with me, Lucia. You said when you were 14 years old that you stopped your aunt and you asked her questions about your family. You had a lot of curiosity as a child. You wrote down those notes, but you didn't find that information too many years later. How did that help you in your home sourcing before you came to Italy?
Quite a bit because she passed away decades ago, and I never would have had those surnames, but particularly on the matriarchal line. It helped me to verify when I was here that I was getting the right marriages together. Talking to your relatives, particularly if they're interested in family and they have any recollections, take advantage of them while you can. Another thing that I did is even with your own mother and father, ask them for a copy of the marriage certificate. I found their names and the parents' names. So a lot of people don't even know who their grandparents' names are. And you get ages. Ask your mom and dad, where were they born? Were they born in America? Did they come over from Italy?
Okay, so now let's say that you don't have any relatives alive to ask that information to. Where do you go to find it?
Well, if you don't have any relatives, I use the Ancestry.com for that, and I get the census records.
And in addition, on Ancestry and Family Search, you can also find records like military records.
It might be in your parents' closet, but they might have documents from their military service or from their parents, old passports, any kind of documents. They might have newspaper clippings of births or deaths of their parents.
There are also websites that you can search on. Newspapers.com is a really good website because they have millions of articles and hundreds of thousands of newspapers online where you can actually find information about your family, from marriage records to announcements to finding out maybe what kind of professions they were in as well. What kind of other information were you able to find for your family?
Well, I found an interesting family story that I found on newspapers.com and articles about that particular situation from all over the country. Also, I found articles about my mom and dad that were published in just the local newspapers of their city. So you never know what you might find in the newspaper. Another source, there's the Italian white pages. And the Italian white pages can be really useful because for a particular city, you can enter in first and last names of people you might think are related and in a certain city, and you might find one or two of those and write to them, and you might get a response.
You might get a response. You might find a living relative. In addition to that, you might also be able to key in a surname if you're uncertain about the town where your ancestors are from, and you can see if that surname exists in that town. And if so, is it a popular surname?
That's how I did find a relative in Messina